Welcome to the Solid Verbal. And now, Dan and Ty.
Dan Rubenstein, congratulations, my good friend. We have completed our 18th regular season as a college football show. Not to make us all feel old here, but it's been a wild ride the whole way through, but certainly with respect to the 2025 college football season, Dan, we have results to discuss. We have much to discuss here as Rivalry Week has come to a conclusion. Sir, welcome back. How are you?
Good. I mean, there's still, Stanford, Notre Dame at time of recording? Are there any other active games? I saw Cal got by SMU with obviously huge ACC implications late in the evening. Is there anything else ongoing? And I'm not talking about with playoff implications. I'm not talking about conference implications. I'm talking about pure emotional implications going into this long, cold off season.
Yeah, I mean, we've got UNLV still in progress. We've got Fresno State and Wyoming still in progress. But by and large, we are winding down here as we come on the airwaves tonight at midnight. We did a live stream on Friday night during Texas A&M, which, of course, we will discuss on today's reaction stream. We did a live stream earlier today looking at the Ohio State-Michigan game. Ohio State finally getting over the hump, snapping their 4-game losing streak. Of course, we will talk about that game as well. We have much to discuss here as we have conference championship matchups that are now officially or almost officially set. I will get to that as well. We also have a bunch of dude alerts, and we're going to do our normal thing here, running through all of the action that was Dan Rubenstein. I thought, as maybe a bit of a treat, and especially since I teased it out on the last episode, that this could potentially be the final Reverb segment. I thought maybe we could do something like we used to back in the day.
Okay.
We used to use the Reverbs as sort of a amuse-bouche.
Yeah, a launching point.
An appetizer, an icebreaker. So if this is the end for the Reverbs, I don't know. We can discuss that in the offseason, but it is the end for this regular season. Let's hear from the Verballerhood. Let's get this thing started off on the right foot. We'll pick it up on the flip side. Here are your Rivalry Week Reverbs.
Hey, Dan and Ty. This is Tommy calling in from Point Pleasant, New Jersey, and I just wanted to give the Verballers an update on someone who called in earlier in the season. I just proposed to my girlfriend, and babe, what do you got to say?
I think we may be the first solid Verposal. Toodaloo. Go Tigers.
Hi, this is Trisha from Columbus.
Hey, this is Josh in San Antonio.
Hey, this is Caleb from Albuquerque. The New Mexico Lobos had one of their best wins in 30 years today. The stadium was packed. We won in double overtime. We're going to the conference championship. And then Bronco Mendenhall ruins it. Again. God, I hate you, Bronco Mendenhall.
2,000 days, and the Bucs finally got it done. I thought it was going to be Whittier when I called, but I wasn't. So,
if you do the math, Michigan paid Bryce Underwood. They paid him $1.5 million per completion.
I'm walking out of Michigan Stadium in the snow, and this is the best day ever.
Invesco QQQ. More like Invesco. Turkey, backyard football, pumpkin pie, and beating little brother. Hook 'em, damn horns.
My disappointment is immeasurable, and my life is ruined. To be an Aggie is to know pain.
It's a day later, and I'm still basking in the fact that the Iowa Hawkeyes and the Chicago Bears won a football game on the same day. Go Hawks, baby.
Skyuma from a snowy day up here in Minneapolis. Just like Luke Fickell, the axe has been retained for one more year.
You know, I agree with the Hog fans that this isn't really a rivalry they have with Mizzou, because rivalries are usually competitive.
I received many thoughtful, touching gifts from my friends and family on this November 29th, my 30th birthday. But it is hard to top an Oregon win over the Washington Huskies.
The Cup is coming home. Bear down. I never doubted you for a minute, Brent Brennan. Maybe for a minute.
Sorry to all of my Syracuse friends on behalf of my Boston College Eagles. I also don't know what happened. 2-10. Let's go, baby.
Just like we drew it up, Dan and Ty. Penn State barely beats Rutgers to make it 6-6 record and be bowl eligible. We are.
One set of accounting majors from New Jersey is crying.
one set of accounting and business majors from New Jersey is celebrating. Wahoo wah, baby. Go Who's.
So if we can all agree that the college football playoff is an entertainment product for making money, why wouldn't you want Arch Manning in your entertainment product? Your move, CFP committee. Hook 'em horns.
If this is to truly be the final Reverb line, I have something very important I need to get off my chest. All of your schools stink. Mine is the only good one. Stay solid.
All right. What a batch of reverbs. Thank you to our chief reverb engineer, Shay, for cutting those together. The reverb line officially closed, at least for now. Dan Rubenstein, we appreciate the Verballerhood getting us off on the right foot. Where do you think the most appropriate place is to start now that we've got week 14/rivalry week mostly in the books? Again, a couple games still going on as we record at midnight Eastern time, but much action to discuss. A lot going on in and around the world of college football, on the field, off the field, you name it. Where do you want to go first?
Lane Kiffin just pooped. And I guess we're going to get a podcast from a bunch of different networks about how solid it was and what that might mean for his future decision-making, what he had for lunch, maybe what it implies he's going to have for breakfast tomorrow morning.
Are you hinting that maybe you're tired of the incessant Lane Kiffin coverage? Is that what I am detecting here?
Well, no. I mean, I have so many playoff memories involving Lane Kiffin as a head coach that I'm just trying to organize all my thoughts at once, because obviously we have to put that kind of effort and thought into his future. Where should we start? I don't know. Let's start with the Texas game. How about that? It was Friday. It was huge. It was exciting. It has implications. Let's go there.
We did a live stream on Friday night, and this is sort of what kicked off the weekend. Of course, we had games throughout the day on Friday. Some were better than others, right? I didn't have Georgia Tech being a rock fight. Did not foresee that one. That was not in the cards for me, not in the cards for you. We had a couple other games throughout the day. We will talk about the Egg Bowl that took place at noon Eastern time on Friday. But the big one was at night, and it was between Texas A&M and Texas. The Lone Star Showdown returning to Austin for the first time in 15 years. Texas A&M came in, I think, a slight favorite, 2.5, 3 points, something of that nature. Both of us were on Texas A&M for a whole multitude of reasons, but this game evolved in a really strange way. You know, it went from, I thought, early, looking like Arch Manning was going to be constantly under duress and was not going to have much to say with the final outcome, just because of how ferocious it seemed the A&M defense was. But then as the game wore on, he started to grow into it. As the game wore on, Texas started to actually lean on its run game. It became apparent that Marcel Reed and the otherwise really potent Texas A&M offense was not able to just flip a switch and get it going against this Texas defense. And before you knew it, Texas pulled the big-time upset at home, and through the SEC title chase, to some extent the college football playoff chase, a bunch of things into a mini tailspin, let's say, headed into the college football weekend.
Yes. Look, it was a disappointing first half for Arch Manning and Texas offensively. Texas A&M did a nice job of speeding him up, but Texas did a good job of not having any back-breaking mistakes. They were just off in that first half, whereas Texas A&M was making plays at times. Casey Concepcion was making plays. Marcel Reed's ankle rolled from under him, and it was, actually really nice to see him come back pretty quickly from that after what looked like it could have been a pretty scary situation. And then Texas came out in the second half and made plays. It was as comfortable as we've seen Arch Manning against a very good team this season in a high leverage moment. And there have been a lot of them for Texas this season, given the quality of their opponents over the course of this season. But stepping into the pocket, forging that connection with Jack Endries, the tight end transfer from Cal, not getting a ton from his running game leading up to this game, and then all of the sudden being able to pop some in play action, both, with his own arm and then using his own legs, and getting Trey Wisner to get, this wasn't Arch Manning getting Trey Wisner, but Texas getting Trey Wisner to sort of find grass, find turf, and open up holes for him. And you could just see Texas riding the energy in the stadium in that second half, getting stops on defense, and that's without Anthony Hill. That this was when Texas sort of ascended to what we all expected them to more consistently be this year. I would argue a little too late in terms of the Texas fan postseason hopes.
Right.
But
right.
in terms of the vibes around this specific performance, the ending was immaculate for Texas.
It was. I was really impressed with Texas's ability to rally in the second half with 24 points. I was impressed by their defense. And as I said, its ability to contain Marcel Reed and an otherwise really solid A&M ground assault. And I've been impressed the last couple weeks, but I'll say it again with what we saw out of Arch. I don't want to belabor the point, but we've seen real growth from Arch Manning. It seems like ever since he knocked his head a couple weeks ago, he's played a lot freer out there. He's been a lot more decisive. It feels like he's got better control of the offense. He doesn't have happy feet. The mechanics at times can still be a bit wonky, but he is delivering and he is finding ways to get results. In this case, it wasn't so much through the air, though there was a little bit of that. He was getting it done on the ground at a big 35-yard touchdown run at the very end to sort of give them some distance. They end up winning this one at home by a 27-17 margin. So I credit Texas on a bunch of different fronts. Look, Texas A&M is still going to be in this thing.
Yeah.
But I think you pushed up against the point now that we are going to hear endlessly over the next week and a day or so, and that is going to be, should 3-loss Texas be actually considered to be part of the college football playoff? Again, it's kind of getting tight there at the back end of the college football playoff rankings. Anywhere between 9 and 13 could go a bunch of different directions depending on how the committee feels. Now you add in this Texas element, and who knows? I don't personally think they should be up there. I think they made a hell of a run here, and this was a fantastic win, one of the best wins we've seen all season, but I don't have a 3-loss Texas in at this point.
Do you think, we have a lot to get to, do you think the time is right to bring back Mac Brown to start campaigning in the way that only Mac Brown knows how to do? And he can take shots at Cal once again, like he did way back when, just for old time's sake. But this is the time for Mac Brown to make his beautiful return to Austin to start the politicking, because while Sark is doing his best, there's nothing like old Mac and maybe Sally, to get involved with the Texas PR blitz that a certain network based in Bristol, Connecticut may or may not be behind. So it was great for Texas. Obviously, the Georgia game still happened, so it hasn't been a great November for Texas, but certainly there have been more promising moments for Texas. And Texas A&M had been getting away with it for a little while against some down opponents. It hasn't been an incredible schedule like Texas has faced for Texas A&M. And some close wins, some close calls, most recently against South Carolina. We called the LRO, the luck running out. I don't think Texas A&M is a lucky team. I think they're a very good team, but you can't keep winning like that and expect to keep winning like that as opponents get better. And it just couldn't happen in Austin. I'm glad the energy and malice and emotional violence is back in this matchup and in this sport.
I am too. And it actually worked out quite well doing it on a Friday night. This was
great
nice to have.
Yes.
On Black Friday. I appreciated that. So by virtue of the A&M loss, that set into motion a series of events that put Georgia into the SEC title game. And then by virtue of the win in the Iron Bowl just a short while ago, a very good game, a crazy game in the Iron Bowl between Alabama and Auburn, it looks like we're going to get a rematch in the SEC title game between the Georgia Bulldogs and the Alabama Crimson Tide, Dan.
Yeah, I mean, I feel good about that as a television viewer. I imagine both of these teams would rather not play this game and just sim this game and move on to the college football playoff. But the way we got here, obviously, Georgia beating Georgia Tech had no bearing on their clinching. Obviously, there was other elements of this that clinched it, namely Texas A&M losing. But it's an easy transition to Georgia and Georgia Tech in an absolute rock fight before the Texas A&M matchup. it was arguably Gunnar Stockton's worst game as the starting quarterback. For
70
Georgia.
yards. 70 yards. Show some respect for the 70 yards passing that Gunnar Stockton had in this football game against a otherwise very bad Georgia Tech defense.
Yeah, the Georgia Tech secondary played very well for the most part against this Georgia offense. They got off the field over and over and over again, and out of nowhere, by the way, because the Georgia Tech defense these past 5-6 weeks has been pretty abysmal. But a great game plan, executed really well, and Georgia had to fight for tough yards. They made plays when it matters, and it did come down, by the way, a beautiful Haynes King ball up the left sideline to set up a Hail Mary attempt at the end of this game. And this is a tough offensive game for Georgia Tech by and large, both on the ground and through the air. A great game plan execution for Georgia's defense as well, but they were in position to, I think, tie this game late. And came up short there, but it was, if you like offensive football, I'm sorry, this one didn't have a ton of it, but it was still a fun, weird back and forth with, I think, a decent amount of offensive slop thrown in at times. Gunnar Stockton just looked pretty tentative going into this Georgia Tech defense, but we say win your clunkers for a reason, and Georgia absolutely did in this one. It was a disappointing visual for me that this game was in Mercedes-Benz Stadium, but all the same, good win for Georgia as they move forward as a likely top 4 or 5 seed in this playoff.
Yeah, I mean, it's clean old-fashioned hate. As with most of the rivalries we're going to talk about here tonight, it's not about winning by 30. It's about winning by 3 or just finding a way to win by 0.3. Anything you can do to get past the rival. We throw the records out. I don't have the sound handy, but you know the drill here. I did not have a rock fight in this game, though, on the bingo card.
No, not at all.
The score was 16-9. Neither team eclipsed more than 260 total yards. And, you know, I had the difference as Georgia's just ability to run the ball a little bit better, control the clock. I think they had about an 11-minute edge in terms of time of possession. And Georgia just has alligator blood this year, man. They just keep freaking hanging around. You can't kill them. And this is another instance of that. They will get another crack now at Alabama, who just won the Iron Bowl. This game was nuts. I was on pins and needles the entire time watching this game for 2 reasons. For 3 reasons, actually.
Go.
The first is it was just a hell of a game. A lot of emotion. You could feel that coursing through the speakers in your television. The second is I picked Auburn outright. I think you picked Auburn outright as well.
Did I? I can't remember for that far back. Continue.
But we both were at least keen on Auburn to keep this one close and make a really good game out of it.
Sure.
Okay. So there was that side of it. And then just speaking personally, as somebody who has a rooting interest in Notre Dame, who I don't know what the committee is going to do with Miami after they knocked off Pitt. We will talk about that game.
Just
that
didn't just knock them off. Handled them. Yeah.
Took care of Pitt. You know, no big deal. I do have a little bit of a concern as to how the committee might feel about Notre Dame in light of some of the results we saw today. So I, just as a fan, was rooting for Auburn to pull the W.
Yes.
I don't know how Auburn fans have put themselves through this for 12 straight games.
This is like 12 straight decades. But yeah.
Every play of the Auburn offense is either a spectacular moment or an utter disaster. And there is no in between. People die every day with lesser ailments than this.
Jeez. Okay.
I don't know how you survive this if you are an Auburn fan. It makes sense why they got rid of Hugh Freeze. They don't want to deal with this anymore either.
Right.
This was a very winnable game for the Auburn Tigers. I will credit Alabama because there were some moments in this game where they needed to rise to the occasion. I got all-time big balls moment, I'm going to call it, for Kalen DeBoer going for it on 4th and whatever. Instead of kicking the chip shot field goal to take the late lead, they score the touchdown. They end up winning this one 27-20. So clearly Alabama rose to the moment when they had to, even though it wasn't their best game. But on the Auburn side, and I will speak to that just because I was watching from that perspective, I was an Auburn fan for the day.
Okay.
This game was infuriating because it was there.
Yeah.
It was there, but if it's not a drop, it's a fumble, it's a penalty, it's a blown coverage. This was a poorly coached team on display that still had enough talent to win the Iron Bowl, and ultimately they lost it on a fumble. Fittingly, they lost it on a Cam Coleman fumble. So all's well, I guess that ends well, at least if you're sticking to the brand that was Auburn football in 2025. This is a hell of a game.
Man, you just think you can fire Hugh Freeze and get rid of that stank in your program in the same season? What have we been calling them? Elite losers. Now,
I mean, they are elite. This is a different echelon of elite loserdom. Okay.
Yes.
I don't know how you do this and sustain it for a full 12-game season.
Yeah.
It has been this way the whole time. It didn't matter who the quarterback was, didn't matter who the coach was. They have been this team all year, and I feel deeply, deeply for the Auburn fans out there in the Verballerhood, because you all need, like, take a gummy or hit the bottle, do something, go get a massage. Whatever it takes, man. Find some way to alleviate the stress, because this is finally over now, and you can move on, hopefully, and get to a more stable place.
It's never over, Ty. We're about to have signing day next week. We're about to have the portal opening. We're about to have Auburn hire a coach. Ty, we're just starting. Being an Auburn fan is like somebody putting an air tag in your car without you knowing it, right? That you're just being followed by this misery. It's tracking you. You're afflicted with Auburn fandom at this point. So, yes, I mean, the end of this game was wild, absolutely wild. They lose the ball on the Cam Coleman fumble out of bounds. By the way, leading up to that point, they go down 17-0, then absolutely hound Ty Simpson in the Alabama offense. And he makes a couple of incredible plays. I think it was Isaiah Horton who had, 5 catches, 3 of which went for touchdowns.
Yep.
Just like an insane game on all levels. Jam Miller goes out hurt midway through this one. Alabama keeps sort of finding a way to outpace Auburn slightly. Auburn and Ashton Daniels keep sort of clawing back. And I think it was Simmons who was the receiver who was shining, sort of all or nothing plays for Auburn, and able to move the ball some on the ground, but they keep clawing back. Have an opportunity a couple times late in this game. Even after that fumble, they get a punt with like 20 seconds left after stopping Bama, with an opportunity to at least get to midfield for a heave. Completely muff the punt. The returner tries to catch it with his larynx. I don't know what the plan was there.
Was up here, whatever this is, like where your collarbones meet the sternum. That's where he tried to catch the punt.
It fumbles. It just bounces straight up into the air to 4 awaiting Alabama players who all somehow bat it out of bounds, giving Auburn even more life, but taking off a few seconds off the clock. Ashton Daniels there's no plan at the end. He both doesn't throw like a quick out or crossing pattern to get out of bounds, hopefully closer to midfield. He's just immediately besieged, tries to make a play, and basically gets 2 seconds left on the clock after completing a pass, is in shotgun formation, so not even attempting a miraculous spike, and they attempt some sort of miracle play that goes nowhere. And there's the ending.
There were some controversial calls and no calls in this game, as well as has very much been the theme of 2025 as well, if we are putting a bow on this thing. So this game had it all. Just whether you're a Bama fan, an Auburn fan, God bless you if you're an Auburn fan. Oh, my God. Or if you're a fan of the SEC or just college football in general, this was a hell of an ending. You love to see great endings.
I think if you're an Alabama fan, you're walking through a car wash after that one, too.
Oh, my God.
Yeah.
I'm not a fan of either team. I'm walking through a car wash. That was nuts. So your final score, 27-20. Alabama finishes the year 10-2. They are going to the SEC Championship game for a rematch with the Georgia Bulldogs. That one's going to take place on Saturday at 4 p.m. Eastern time. There was some other SEC action, but I do want to move on and talk about some other conferences. And we can circle back to the likes of Oklahoma and others, and maybe Ole Miss as well. I don't want to lead off with the Lane Kiffin stuff because it feels like the whole world has gone full Lane Kiffin. So let's give everybody a little taste of what else took place in college football.
I'm told Lane Kiffin just had a granola bar. Continue.
And then we can come back
and
talk about Mr. Lane Kiffin, if that's okay with everybody out there. Let's talk about the Ohio State-Michigan game.
Okay.
Ohio State-Michigan, obviously this game is a ton of fanfare. It is known as the game. Michigan had won 4 in a row. This one was in Ann Arbor. There were snow flurries about the stadium that intensified as the game wore on. By the end of the game, we had a nice little light layer
Yeah.
of freshly fallen snow on the Michigan Stadium turf. It was Ohio State finally getting over the hump, knocking off the Michigan Wolverines. Dan, we did a live stream for this one, had a great turnout. Appreciate everybody stopping on by. It felt like Michigan got off to a nice start. It really did. They weren't able to get touchdowns.
No.
But
or touchdown singular. Yeah.
Or touchdown singular. It felt like they got off to a nice start, though. The crowd was into it. It felt like they had some really early momentum. Julian Saint's his first pass was incomplete. His second pass was underthrown and picked off. So the crowd is going nuts. I mean, everybody is into this game, right? But then slowly but surely over the course of the next, let's say 50 minutes or so, it just felt to me like we sort of had a low-key crock-potting.
Oh,
in the meat.
That tenderizes it.
That tenderizes it in a big way. Yeah.
You know what I mean? It just felt like very slowly but surely Ohio State was cooking.
Yes.
They were cooking. Michigan really couldn't string enough together to build any kind of serious momentum. And Ohio State was good enough on the ground. They were good enough through the air. I don't know if any element of any of this was spectacular, but it was good enough to win. Ohio State, I thought, looked really impressive in this matchup. And they went from early on maybe trying to play the Michigan-style football. We were on the stream talking it through, like, are they running the same playbook as last year's Ohio State-Michigan game?
Mm-hmm.
Slowly graduated away from that, started throwing balls over the top, had some really nice receiving days to talk about. Not as much from Jeremiah Smith, but it ended up being a really good day for Julian Saint. They ran the ball effectively. I thought a complete performance in the end for Ohio State on the road in Michigan Stadium to get over this hump.
Yeah, this day had it all for Ohio State. You mentioned the sort of draining the life out of Michigan drives near the end of the game. We saw some big plays through the air. We saw more of an emergence, a continued emergence from Bo Jackson on the ground. Julian Saint remains extremely accurate outside of, a couple balls here and there against Michigan. He was just, just crazy efficient. He was a killer for Ohio State. We had the slight bobble controversy for Jeremiah Smith after.
Do you think that was a touchback?
Look, you want to take it to 1,000 frames per second, and you want to show me exactly where the bobble was in relation to when he crossed the goal line. I will watch the Zapruder of the bobble.
Yeah.
But when I see a DB and a defense get cooked like Jeremiah Smith cooked them, and the ball slightly shifts as he crosses the plane, it's, especially with the benefit of watching that entire game, that had basically no bearing on the outcome. I'd love a little bit more explanation from refs. I'd love, the transparency that the ACC has in going to the sort of command center, the HQ. But I don't know, for whatever reason, that didn't bother me so much. Wasn't rooting for Michigan or Ohio State. I just watched a great play happen and felt like we don't need to litigate this in super slow-mo when I was pretty sure it wasn't going to have a bearing on the final game. But I get if you're a Michigan fan that it's infuriating, and you have that right. I'm not going to tell you not to be angry. Ohio State just backed him down in the post and dunked on him constantly in that second half. Yeah. If I were a Michigan fan, I'd also be infuriated over whatever the non-vision is and game planning and play calling is for this offense. You have a true freshman quarterback. I understand you're not going to have a complicated playbook. He's not going to go through progressions like you would for a sophomore, a junior, a senior, or something like that. It just seems like there's no rhyme or reason for this Michigan offense. Now, they're playing arguably the best defense in America. So there's just always going to be limitations about what you're able to do against Ohio State's defense this season. But it just seemed super vanilla and predictable. And in a game like this is the time to just really go for it, really throw everything at Ohio State, do everything you can to keep them off balance, especially early on in drives, to stay ahead of the sticks. And I know Michigan doesn't have the talent that they did in these last couple of seasons, but man, I felt like they came into this game with, a plain scoop of very bland vanilla ice cream and said, okay, Top Chef, here we come. And I was so disappointed with the lack of fire in sort of like intellectually behind Michigan's offense that something needs to change. I don't know if it's a new coordinator. I don't know if it's a new vision for how, like, why would a receiver transfer in? Why would Bryce Underwood stay? Yeah, obviously financially, but like, it just seems so uninspired from the Michigan end, playing at home with a ton on the line. Maybe I'm wrong. I don't know.
Well, here's the thing. That game plan has worked. That game plan has worked the last couple of years against Ohio State.
Not with this team this year, with a true freshman quarterback, with this offensive line, and these limitations that they have on offense.
Listen, it is not apples to apples. I understand that, but it looked to me very much like some of the Ohio State-Michigan games we have seen recently. And maybe because this Ohio State team had a better plan, maybe it's just because they're better. I believe they're better. I think most people believe they're all around a better team than Michigan this year. Michigan is still relatively young. But it, for whatever reason, did not work as well. It did feel relatively uninspiring. Bryce Underwood was 8 of 18 for just 63 yards passing and an interception. They had a couple nice early runs from Jordan Marshall.
Right.
But it just never felt like they could string enough together to establish any kind of real momentum and seriously challenge Ohio State outside of the first couple minutes of the game. From that point forward, it was really all Ohio State. And I think it's a great metaphor to say they backed him down in the post and dunked on him for the remainder of the
like
game.
a dad with an 8-year-old, right? Like an unfair advantage, it seemed, in the second half, because there was no threat from the Michigan offense to throw the ball consistently to receivers running intermediate routes, let alone deep routes.
No, there wasn't. And, you know, on the flip side of it, too, I mean, one of the things that we discussed was, again, you're going to have this problem all the time if you're playing Ohio State, at least this year. Mm-hmm. And I've often used the I Love Lucy comparison for our older viewers out there who are familiar with 1952 episodes of I Love Lucy. But the cookies on the conveyor belt, they're just like too many things to keep track of on the Ohio State side.
Yeah.
Too many guys to cover, too many different ways that they can kill you. And Michigan was up against that, as all the teams have been this year. What Michigan needed to try and do to take away some element of it was get pressure on Julian Sain, and they couldn't.
Right.
They really did not do that. The Ohio State offensive line, I thought, did a really good job in this game, keeping him upright, giving him time. And when you give him time, we talked about it in the build-up to this game. He had a 79.4% completion percentage. I don't know what it is on the season now. I don't know if he broke the single-season record or not, but that's beside the point. He's been a damn accurate passer, and when you give him time to throw to these receivers, granted, Jeremiah Smith didn't really eat outside of that touchdown, but the rest of the receiving corps did a pretty good job here. Julian Sain's going to beat you. I think we've come to know that about him in his first year as a starter, and Michigan just was not able to upset his rhythm enough to get any serious traction here on stopping this offense. 27-9 was your final score, so it wasn't as if Ohio State went out there and put up 50 points or anything crazy, but it still felt like a rather complete and dominating effort from the Buckeyes as they go on the road and win.
Yeah, and that's Jeremiah Smith and Carnell Tate coming back from injury. This, over the course of the season, this has been a new look offensive line that I think has had some up and down moments, relatively speaking, when you go 12-0 in the Big Ten. But I thought the offensive line was pretty sensational against Michigan today.
I would agree with that. Ohio State finishes the year 12-0. They are going to the Big Ten Championship to square off against the Indiana Hoosiers, Dan. It has been a charmed 2-year run for Indiana. They won 56-3, took the Old Oaken bucket. They knock off Purdue, Dan. Been a rough year for Purdue, but they're kind of rebooting under Barry Odom. Indiana also finishes the year 12-0, which means we're going to get a 1-2 Big Ten title in Indianapolis next week on Fox at night.
Yep. By the way, I just saw that Lane Kiffin is having trouble finding his iPhone charger. I don't know if you have a breaking news. He has found his iPhone charger. Everything is okay. Continue.
We have had far too many Lane Kiffin updates. The latest now, as we're watching this at halftime, or as we're recording this, I should say, at halftime of the Notre Dame game, Lane Kiffin's going to hold a team meeting Sunday at 9 a.m., whatever that means. So it sounded as though the sticking point was Lane wants to go to LSU, but he wants to coach Ole Miss if he can in the playoff. That obviously presents something of a conflict of interest. Perhaps we could debate the merits of that as we go on
I
a
don't even
little
think
bit.
there's a debate.
I'm just saying.
Unless maybe you're represented by the same agency as Lane Kiffin, which apparently the people shilling for this idea are.
We can dabble in the marketplace of ideas a little bit later on. I want to talk about other things not named Lane Kiffin.
That's fine. Let's do that.
Let's head on over to the ACC.
Okay, let's do it.
Holy hell, Dan.
Yeah. Sorry. The ACC, Duke runs this bitch. Okay, continue. Excuse my language. I'm sorry.
Miami won their game earlier in the day on Saturday over Pitt. They won 38-7. This game was over pretty much the second it started. It was apparent, I was high on Pitt. I've been talking up Pitt since the beginning of our, August, end of July. I've been all in on Pitt. I thought Pitt, the way Pitt rallied with their new quarterback, Mason Hydra, all of that was very admirable. Yeah?
Definitely.
You'd agree with me.
Of course. For
You'd agree
sure.
with me.
And we
Made a nice little run.
Boozy Turner last week and lighting up Georgia Tech on the road, putting up 400 plus yards. It was great.
Had a nice little run, and I credit them for what they did. Miami came out with an axe to grind. Okay. They were the better team from the jump. I had this game on as we were doing our live stream of Ohio State, Michigan. Every time I looked over, it just felt like Miami was doing whatever the hell it wanted.
Yes. By the way, did you see Mario Cristobal's quote about the weather going into this game?
The weather? No, I did not.
So I mentioned that it was going to be quite cold in Miami. Obviously, it's not a place that is quite cold at kickoff. And Mario Cristobal said, "There's no such thing as cold weather, just soft people."
Oh my gosh.
Perfect.
Where's my sound?
No notes. Just soft people. Continue.
Soft people.
Yeah.
38-7 was your final here. And listen, it's hard to watch this game and come away unimpressed with Miami. There's a whole playoff conversation that's going to take place about the Canes and should they move up? If so, how far? They will not be playing for the ACC Championship. They did not hit the parlay that we had discussed in previous episodes, but they won in resounding fashion, and I got to believe that the committee is going to reward them to some extent. To what extent, we're going to have to wait until Tuesday night to find that out. But these are exactly the types of games that Miami has lost in the past. We saw it happen last year. Big game on the road, late in the season, perhaps to close out the season. You got to win in resounding fashion. You got to go out on a high note, especially if you may not have that extra chapter in a conference championship game. So to that end, Miami passed the assignment. I mean, Miami was awesome in this game against Pitt. They, again, won by 31 points on the road against the Pitt Panthers. That is not the story, though, in the ACC. That might be the story with respect to the college football playoff rankings debate that has been ongoing now for what feels like an eternity.
Yeah.
The bigger talking point now is going to be this ACC championship game, which is going to feature the Virginia. Can you believe it?
Yeah. The Who's, baby. Get used to it.
Oh, my gosh. The Virginia Cavaliers won 27-7 over Virginia Tech. Virginia Tech looked like they were ready to cash it in. Virginia Tech fully mailed it in. Kyron Drones went 4 of 16 for 78 yards. They were 2 of 14 on third downs. Virginia Tech was officially your 1-2-3 Cancun team of the week. Okay.
Scrolling Black Friday deals on the sideline.
They did not want to be there. Even if they said they did, they most certainly did not play that way. The Commonwealth Cup went almost immediately to Virginia. Vautech never had anything going. Virginia's opponent in the ACC championship game is going to be 7-5 Duke. It is going to be the Duke Blue Devils because SMU went on the road to the hinterlands of the California Golden Bears, who, by the way, just fired their coach and lost by a 38-35 margin. Duke playing for the ACC championship against Virginia opens up the possibility of a no-bid ACC college football playoff. I don't know how likely that is. My suspicion is that the committee is going to reward, at least to some extent, what they saw from Miami this week. Do they jump Notre Dame? Do they bounce Notre Dame? There's going to be some real debate over what happens on the back end of that college football playoff field.
Yeah.
But if 7-5 Duke were to win the ACC championship, it opens up the very real and almost likely possibility that the winner of the American gets into the playoff. Maybe James Madison gets into the playoff. Maybe the winner of the Mountain West gets into the playoff. But I think it is very likely that you would have two G6 teams getting in over the conference champion in the ACC, only if Duke wins.
Yes.
If Virginia wins, then it's probably a completely different conversation. But just the fact that we are going into conference championship week and that remains a possibility is kind of wild in its own right, if I don't say so myself.
It's going to be North Texas Tulane in
That's
the
right.
American Championship game. So Tulane was ranked. They were the lone non-quote unquote power conference team ranked in this last college football playoff rankings. So they're in a position to be ranked ahead of Duke should they beat North Texas. And I don't know, you can look at James Madison in the AP poll, however instructional that might be. Instructive? I don't know. That might be in terms of where the committee's heads might be at with, how it relates to James Madison, who is going to be playing for the Sun Belt next week. That's very real. That's extremely real. And have Miami potentially get in, not even playing for the conference championship game, which we've seen in the playoff, a team not playing in the 4-team version, not playing in the conference championship game, but making it as an at-large. But just a wild turn of events. Darian Mensah, by the way, it was a good game for Duke, to be clear. Darian Mensah set the single-season Duke touchdown passes record with, I think, 27.
Right.
So a good game for Duke in their rivalry, their comfortable rivalry win over, pseudo rivalry. They beat up on Wake, right? But I mean, I don't know. All things considered, weird non-conference portion of their schedule, but Duke put themselves in a position and won a bunch of ACC games.
49-32 was the final score. I did see an interesting thought from our friend Nicole Auerbach from over at NBC.
Yeah.
Who said that the ACC should just override their tiebreakers and put Miami through. Put them into the conference championship as only college football can do. Let's do that. Let's make it even more controversial. I endorse this plan, Nicole. Thank you for putting that out there.
If there's like a little amendment, if there's a little, is the word I'm looking for, codicil, Ty?
I've never heard that word in my life.
You've never heard codicil?
Never. No.
I think my dad always threatened me with that whenever I would do something wrong. He'd be like, I'm going to change the will. I think it's an amendment. Like if there's like an at the discretion of the commissioner little fine print for the ACC to move forward with Miami. Obviously, Miami is very clearly one of the best two teams at this point, because as Ty has been pointing out all year long for a couple of years now, we'll know more by December, Ty. And here we are.
Here we are
knocking on the door.
We're almost in December, baby. It's going to be December next week.
I can say with a good degree of confidence that Miami is arguably one of the best two teams in the ACC. How about that?
I'll go with that. Yeah.
Okay.
I'll go with that. Not much defense in the Duke Wake game. I was watching that one because I was just curious to see if Duke could obviously get the win or if Wake could mount the charge. Because if Wake were to win that game, it would have been 9-3, finished the year 9-3, which would have been
a great story. Yeah.
Yeah. An incredible story, but 4 turnovers for Wake. They had a bunch of fumbles. Again, they couldn't really stop Duke. As you said, Darian Mensah sort of went off in that game. 49-32 was your final again. Duke is going to be playing for the conference championship. Again, we got a bunch of other games here.
Yes, please.
That we're going to discuss momentarily, but let's head on over to the Big 12 and highlight what went down over there. We've got our conference championship game set as Texas Tech against BYU, as opposed to many of the other games that needed Saturday's action to tell us what's going to happen, who's going to play, when are they going to play. We knew this one going into Saturday because Arizona State lost the Territorial Cup on Friday night.
Yes.
Because of that, it automatically put Texas Tech and BYU through.
Yeah.
So we're going to have Texas Tech BYU part 2 coming up this weekend.
Kind of the most, other than I guess the Territorial Cup, which was exciting for a stretch. It wasn't great offensively for 4 quarters, but kind of the most boring conference in a good way. I say that as a compliment. Like the teams that needed to take care of business did so emphatically. A slow start for BYU, but otherwise, like kind of a good day for a lot of teams to finish out their schedules strong.
Let me get something off my chest here for a second, if I can.
Please.
How long has Brett Yormark been running this conference now? How long's it been? A couple years?
Something like 2-3 years. Yeah.
Remember, came over with much fanfare from Rock Nation, whatever it was. Remember, was working with Jay-Z.
Yep.
Brett Yormark.
August 1st, 2022. Yeah.
2022. We've been putting up with a lot of crap from this guy. And by that, I mean just weird ideas. Okay?
Right.
He's got a lot of good ideas, to be clear.
Yeah.
Many of which I have supported. Every now and again, though, there's a little too much Tony Petitti in him. All right? Where he comes up with something and he's gonna float it out there.
Sure.
If he would put some of his time and energy into fixing the Big 12's rivalry week instead of trying to play games in, I don't know, Brazil.
We had Ireland this year. Yeah.
Wherever the hell. If he would put a little bit more elbow grease into fixing this week, the conference would be better for it. Because we only had the Territorial Cup.
Yeah.
That was all we had. We didn't have a Sunflower Showdown. We didn't have Farmageddon. That one was over in Ireland early in the year.
Used to have Bedlam. Yeah.
Yeah, we didn't have Bedlam. We don't have the Rivalry. We didn't have the Holy War this week. Again, Territorial Cup was nice, but take some time in the offseason, see what you can do, talk to your member institutions, and see if there is some way to get in on this party, because I hate to see the most exciting conference, the Big 12, that is always in flux, that is always up in the air, that is always a ton of fun to watch, the other 13 weeks of the season. I hate to see them be completely left out. And we got games like BYU, UCF. That's not a rivalry.
I know, but we get those special games when perhaps other conferences are having, are deciding to play Mercer, right? That the Big 12 is finding space for themselves to play some of their bigger matchups when perhaps we have some down matchups otherwise on the schedule. I don't hate it.
TCU Cincinnati really got the blood flowing for you?
It was a good game for TCU's offense. It was a complete game for TCU.
Shut up. You know exactly what I'm talking about.
Brendan Sorsby is about to take Texas Tech's money next year. Who knows?
It was a good game for TCU. They had 238 on the ground to go along with 300 yards for Josh Hoover. Anyway, listen.
They had a tough schedule, and they finished, 8-4 this year?
8-4. That's the end of my rant. Brett Yormark, I know you don't listen, but if you do, please see if you can fix this. Texas Tech won 49-0 over West Virginia. They left no doubt. And BYU won by 20 over UCF. UCF jumped out to an early lead. They were up 14-0 in this one, but then BYU sort of woke up. They outscored them 41-7 the rest of the way. UCF just could not run. They had 42 yards and 19 carries.
Yeah.
Taven Jackson had an okay game.
It's year one. Had some fun
for
moments.
UCF.
Yeah.
But I think all things considered, UCF had a better year than many had expected, but they were no match for BYU in this game.
No. Yeah. Bear Bachmeier lit them up.
How do we feel about this rematch next week?
I'm going to have to give it some thought, but I'm not sure what Texas Tech has shown in terms of a weakness that can be exploited in a more dramatic way than what BYU wasn't able to do last time they played. But I'm going to give it some thought. I'm going to rewatch some BYU and see if I feel differently.
Okay. Now that we have covered the tops of the conferences, let's go back through. Let's make a second pass here, and let's talk about some other games that had importance.
Yeah. There's a bunch of playoff teams potentially who played we haven't discussed.
I will circle back to the SEC now, because the one that I was watching intently, and the game that, again, for me, just speaking as somebody who is a Notre Dame fan, well-known Notre Dame fan, Oklahoma 17, LSU 13 was a game that I was yelling about. However you thought this game was going to go, it was at least 25% uglier.
Yeah.
This was a horrible viewing experience, this game. It felt like both schools joined the Big Ten West.
From 2017? Yeah.
From 2017. I hated this game. I watched the whole thing. It was ugly, but Oklahoma got it done. 3 picks for John Mateer. He came through in the clutch. He had the big throw late. It was really just 2 big plays for Oklahoma, Dan. They had the long catch and run to Deion Burks earlier in the fourth quarter, and then the busted coverage, the 58-yard touchdown pass from Mateer to Isaiah Satania with 4 minutes left that gave them the late lead.
Yeah.
But it was a mistake-prone game for Oklahoma. They're going to end up hosting a playoff game now, I think, unless the committee decides they should be jumped by some of the teams behind them. But I hate to do this because they just won and this was like a moment of triumph. They end up going 10-2 against an incredible schedule.
Yeah.
I mean, there is a lot to like about Oklahoma, so we should probably start there before I give my other thoughts on the
Beat
Sooners.
Michigan and then, scheduled a big non-conference game. Beat
Right.
Michigan at home. Yeah.
This is a very, very big moment for the Oklahoma Sooners, and I do not want to be the guy that throws cold water on it right away. Okay?
Beat Bama. Yeah.
So what say you about what we saw from Oklahoma, not just in this game, but throughout the course of the season? Has this team gotten better to you as we have watched them over the last 6 weeks or so?
I enjoy that they're self-aware. I enjoy that they know how they have to win and steer into that. They know that they have to win by abusing teams on defense, forcing mistakes, giving themselves short fields, and hopefully setting up John Mateer to not throw potentially back-breaking interceptions.
Yes.
Which he can do.
Yeah.
And has done this season. Sometimes with a working hand, sometimes less so. You know what? In rewatching this game, I watched it on and off when other games were on because I want to say this game was happening while Oregon-Washington was going. So I had a more focused eye on that one. But something I came back to was like, man, it wasn't that long ago that both of these schools had incredible quarterbacks repeatedly.
Yeah.
And you're just like, I'm watching an Oklahoma LSU game, and this is the quarterback play I'm getting with John Mateer and MVB.
Listen, I thought Mateer had 3 picks, but he had good numbers otherwise. He did come through in the clutch.
Those were bad picks, though, man.
They were bad picks. But in the end, he did what he does, and he got the job done. He came through in the clutch and ended up winning the game, which is all that matters, in rivalry week.
He's your Duff Beer quarterback of the year. He is the cause of and solution for all of Oklahoma's offensive problems.
I don't think that's fair.
No, I mean, look, the offensive line still isn't great. The receivers still aren't consistent. The running game came and went this season. But if you're capable of throwing 3 interceptions in a big game, and those were on him, I mean, there was a tip ball that I think Harold Perkins ran back almost all the way. But he's very good. He makes plays. He's, maximizing what the Oklahoma offense has. But at the same time, he has clunkers. And so there were opportunities for MVB and the LS. Like, he just was late. He's short. He was late on some open passes that, the one in the end zone, he had an open tight end running and just was late and got picked, I think, by Peyton Bowen. Just quarterback play was not incredible in this game. I was impressed with the LSU defense, honestly, that LSU as a team, given everything that's ongoing behind the scenes, given everything that happened behind the scenes this season, like, still played pretty hard, ran the ball decently well at times, but it was a winnable moment for them. But Oklahoma is the consummate winning is a skill team, it seems, given their schedule this year.
Well, listen, and that deserves some praise.
Yeah.
And I think Brent Venables, the way he pieced this roster together, and especially against the schedule, I was talking to somebody earlier about this, and it's sort of mind-blowing now in hindsight, thinking back to the conversations we had when we previewed the SEC in August. And I remember looking at Oklahoma's schedule and thinking, there is no way. Right. There is no way. Even if they get 50% better, there is no way they are ripping through this and they're going to have a real shot at playing for anything of real merit. Bowl game for sure, but the playoff, on the fringes of the SEC conference discussion, no chance. But they found a way to do it. So I credit them for that. I just don't think they're that good, Dan.
Well,
I just don't think they're that good. I think they're very limited on offense. I think the defense is legit. There's no denying that. It is a very, very good defense, and that has clearly taken them places. But I don't think they're that good. And when it comes time to pick against them in the playoff, I will.
The offense, once again, we've hammered this. I've hammered this. Did not score 30 points in an SEC game this year.
No.
And they're going to the playoff.
They're going to the playoff, and they deserve to be in the playoff.
That's just the degree of difficulty. That's a high wire. Yeah.
I'm not saying they don't deserve it. I'm just saying once they get there, I'm not picking them to win.
Right. Okay. Fair enough.
Ole Miss also won. This game was, of course, clouded by all the Lane Kiffin stuff. Can we get a Lane Kiffin update, Dan?
Oh, yes. I'm told there was a call to Lane Kiffin's house. It was an HVAC repair guy. They were trying to schedule something, but he is...
Which house? The one that he's got now in Oxford or the one that he might buy in Baton Rouge.
Oh, it's the Oxford House. So
The
he's
Oxford House,
unsure
okay.
how to proceed because, it does get a little chilly in the winter. Yeah.
38-19, Ole Miss doubles up on Mississippi State. Mississippi State was feisty for a bit in this game, but eventually through the course of 60 minutes, it was clear that Ole Miss was a better team. They just gradually pulled away. I don't have my boat race sound. I probably should have been more prepared, but this felt like a boat racing to me.
Yeah, eventually it was Trinidad Chambliss. Sort of an up and down day, made some huge throws, missed some throws, but what he was able to do through the air, Kewan Lacey obviously paced this one, especially in the second half. I want to say Trey Wallace had a couple big catches. DeJon Stribling, the Oklahoma State transfer, had a couple big moments. It was just very clear that Ole Miss had more in this second half as they quite literally ran away with it. It was a game, though. It was, 21-13 in the third quarter? But it was just sort of an again, and Mississippi State pretty clearly ran out of gas.
They ran out of gas. It was a really good game for Trinidad Chambliss, who had 359 and 4 touchdowns. I did see some rumors out there that if Lane decides he's going to go elsewhere, Trinidad Chambliss could follow him. I think he can petition the NCAA and still get another year of eligibility, if memory serves. So
it was a Kamario Taylor game, by the way. For
Kamario Taylor
for
Mississippi State, I thought had some nice flashes in this game that left me feeling pretty encouraged about what his future could look like. So
ran well. Yeah.
I mean, there are a lot of talking points that I think are going to come out of this one really on both sides of it. Chief among them, though, is going to be the Kiffin stuff. And we'll have to wait to see what transpires. Look, we're recording this late on Sunday night. We don't have an update other than to say there's going to be a team meeting. My hunch, Dan, is that he is gone. Otherwise, they wouldn't have dragged this out as long as they have. It sounds as though the sticking point was he wants to coach them in the playoff. I don't know how you coach two teams at once. That could be kind of hard, especially in a conference
weird?
like the SEC.
Do you think that's strange if the LSU coach is just in the Ole Miss facility every day?
I understand where he's coming from. But it is hard when you reach this level of the absolute heights of the coaching profession to try and get your cake and eat it too. And I'm not sure how that's going to go over.
Is there somebody I don't know about who's making him take the LSU job? Is that somebody that is he's being held against his will and being forced to take this job? He could just coach Ole Miss. He could just coach Ole Miss in the college football playoff and continue to be their coach for double-digit millions of dollars and an enormous budget to recruit players via the portal. He could do that.
He might still do that. This is Lane Kiffin.
He's not, but I'm saying nobody's making him leave. He could coach the playoff and be happy.
He could. He absolutely could. Look, we'll get more clarity on this. And as I said earlier, there's going to be a team meeting bright and early on Sunday morning. There's also going to be plenty of other coaching news out there.
Yeah.
I don't even think that's a debate. So we will do our part here to keep you up to speed on the situation. At a minimum, you can listen to the Tuesday episode where I think we're going to recap a bunch of this stuff and talk through playoff scenarios and a bunch of other odds and ends throughout the course of, I guess, the next 48 hours, what transpires.
Yeah.
But Ole Miss with a big win. Again, 38-19 was your final. The only other game here that I wanted to pay a little bit more attention to is Vanderbilt Commodores, Dan.
In the SEC, to be clear. Yeah.
In the SEC, Vandy wins 45-24 over Tennessee on the road.
Yes.
They outscored Tennessee 24-3 in the second half. A ton of offense for both teams, but Diego Pavia again goes off. This guy's incredible. He is incredible. And this was an impressive win.
Oh, yeah. It was super impressive. He goes over 100 yards rushing. Cedric Alexander goes over 100 yards rushing. Throws a couple of bad picks. I was trying to think of the word that best encapsulates in my mind when I watch Diego Pavia. I mean, Tennessee's defense hasn't been great this season. Obviously, they've dealt with a ton of attrition, and it's affected the way that they've been able to perform against the better teams on their schedule. Diego Pavia is a menace.
No.
He is just a menace. He's horrendous to try and bring down, keeps making play after play in high leverage moments. Did so again today. And Vandy really, I mean, defensively, that's been the question, right? That they allowed what they allowed to Auburn. But I mean, Deshaun, who was it? The the Tennessee backs made plays in that first half. It was Deshaun Bishop, excuse me. But I think he sort of hurdled and had a great run for a touchdown. The Vanderbilt defense really clamped in the second half. And that's been the question mark, right? With what they allowed against Texas and Austin, what they allowed against Auburn when Ashton Daniels took over. And for them to do this and make the adjustments they did against Joey Aguilar and Tennessee, that answered an interesting question to me about like what Vanderbilt can look like against a decent team that can move the ball pretty consistently. And Vandy came to play. And this was on the road, too.
This was on the road. And look, Pavia is a really interesting character in the college football story over the last 2 years.
Menace. Yeah.
He is a menace. He is the type of guy where if he is on your team, you love him. If he is not on your team and you are playing his team, you hate his guts.
Yes.
He is that type of guy, but he is a menace. And he does deserve to be in New York. I don't know if he deserves the Heisman. We can have that discussion on Tuesday. But I think he absolutely earned his way to New York.
Yes.
Absolutely. No question about that. Any other thoughts around the SEC, Dan? We had a few other games. We had Mizzou knocking off Arkansas 31-17. We had Florida knocking off Florida State by a 40-21 score. Any of those move the needle for you?
I just didn't really watch much of those specific games. I did see that Mizzou ran all over Arkansas. Bo Prabula threw for like 13 feet, and they won by double digits. So that was good for Mizzou. That's a game I'm going to watch Sunday or Monday morning. SEC-wise, no, I did not watch Florida State. And I saw, like, right away, Louisville just absolutely smoked Kentucky.
Oh, my God.
And it's interconference, but, like, kind of good for Clemson for winning this game against South Carolina, at least ended on a high note after a disappointing season, especially the start of it. So, yeah, I watched a little bit of that on the second screen, a little bit of Miller Moss coming back and playing well, obviously. Louisville's dealt with a ton of injuries as well, that they're able to close the season like they did. So, no in-depth thoughts in this moment. I didn't watch a ton.
My takeaway after what we saw this evening is that if Kentucky had played Virginia Tech, that game would still be in overtime with a 0-0 score.
Yeah, of course.
Those were two teams that did not look at all like they wanted to play this week, and I think the result showed it. That's pretty much my closing thought there. You mentioned Louisville winning 41-0 over Kentucky. Over in the ACC, you mentioned the Clemson game, but we also had NC State knocking off UNC. We mentioned briefly that Cal knocked off SMU. That game was kind of wild. And Boston College gets the win over Syracuse, 34-12.
I think we have some Big Ten things to talk about. I've given you an hour and 3 minutes thus far ish, and we haven't even mentioned Oregon Washington.
Fine. Let's talk about Oregon Washington.
You haven't mentioned Matt Rule being paid $400 million to continually lose to Iowa.
Fine. Let's go there.
Okay.
What do you got for me?
Good game, back and forth game a little bit. Oregon kind of controlled things on the scoreboard, but they were unable to sort of take advantage of opportunities to open this up, in large part because Washington played the run really, really well. Oregon was not able to get anything going on the ground. And Washington themselves were able to get, I think it was Adam Muhammad. It wasn't even Jonah Coleman. Adam Muhammad looked like he's been playing for like the Chargers for 4 years.
Really good. Yeah.
He looked like an NFL running back, and he has not been a huge deal for Washington this season. I think he was a Jed Fish recruit at Arizona who transferred up, but he looked terrific, slamming into the Oregon defensive front and succeeding a ton. Dante Moore had to win this game because they took away the run, and he had to win this game with Kenyon Sadiq with a couple of drops and not a huge factor. And obviously no DeCorian Moore and Gary Bryant Jr. They're numbers 1 and 2 wide receivers, and made some incredible throws. The Oregon defense came up big with some interceptions. One of them was game sealing. They hounded Damon Williams, who seems to be untackleable. Maybe he did an incredible job evading the Oregon pass rush and defenders. But Washington just didn't have the pop on offense, didn't have the rhythm on offense other than what they were doing on the ground for stretches in this game to finish drives. Jed Fish teams have notoriously been disappointing, to say the least, in the red zone, and it continued today. And Oregon got a ton out of their kicker, your favorite name in the sport, Atticus Sappington.
Can't be a real name.
Seems to be, but I can't confirm it.
That can't be real.
Malik Benson was huge in this one. He had a long touchdown catch, the Florida State transfer.
Yeah.
Jamari Johnson, a very good game, tight end number 2 behind Kenyon Sadiq. And Oregon protected Dante Moore pretty well, all things considered, with how their offensive line is beat up. And they will secure somewhere between like the 5 and 7 seed, it seems, right?
It does. And I do think, depending on what the committee ends up doing, and we talked about this on one of the episodes from this past week, though it looked for a minute like the Solid Bowl would be off, I think there are real possibilities now that the Solid Bowl between Notre Dame and Oregon could be back on. It depends on the seeding.
Sure.
I do think there's a real chance here that Penn State's not going to be playing in the playoff. That Notre Dame is going to get bumped down to like number 10.
Yeah.
And if that's the case, then it could open up the door for potentially a Solid Bowl in the first round between Notre Dame and Oregon. Oregon would likely host that game, but I think
as
it's
opposed
possible.
to who? As opposed to the Tokyo Dome?
As opposed to the Tokyo Dome.
I think Oregon at the 5 seed playing against the 10. Yes. Very interesting. I hope we can watch it together in some way because we've been waiting for this moment for 17, 18 years now. It'll be very interesting if Notre Dame makes the playoff, which seems like they are. There's a conversation for another day, but I'm hopeful that we get that matchup at some point soon.
I am as well. Penn State and Rutgers is kind of nuts in the Big Ten.
Yeah, man. Penn State found themselves a quarterback.
I guess. It might be Ethan Kaliak-Manis, but Penn State won this game over Rutgers 40-36. It was a wild game.
Mm-hmm.
They beat Rutgers for the 18th straight time. This game featured an absolutely absurd scoop and score that gave Penn State the lead for good in the fourth quarter. So Ethan Kaliak-Manis drops back to pass for Rutgers, straight up drops the ball. Just drops the ball.
Yeah.
Amari Campbell, Amari Cooper, former receiver, different guy.
Yeah.
Amari Campbell, the linebacker for Penn State, who's had a really good year after he transferred up from North Carolina, picks it up, runs 61 yards for a touchdown. That gives Penn State the lead in the fourth quarter. Otherwise, it was a really good day for Katron Allen. Had a career day on the ground, 226, his high for a single game. 509 total yards for Penn State's offense. Friends were texting me throughout this one saying, fire Terry Smith, fire Jim Knowles, because the defense did not play a very good game for Penn State. But we did see a little bit more out of them on offense. Penn State, by the way, has been relatively anonymous in the coaching search. We've been hearing a lot about these other schools, about the likes of LSU, about the likes of Florida, even the likes of Arkansas. What would Ole Miss potentially do? Auburn, might they promote from within? Haven't heard a whole lot about the Penn State Nittany Lions, and I genuinely have no idea which direction they're going to go. We've all heard rumors at this point. My hunch is that we're going to get some clarity on that one before long, probably before Monday. But that is sort of the elephant in the room right now in the Penn State community.
I mean, Deion Sanders is right there.
No.
Deion Sanders is right there. Dan Hawkins. Let's just go through Colorado.
Yeah, let's go through old Colorado.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, Penn State is Rutgers-esque this year. And it's better to beat Rutgers than to lose to Rutgers. Penn State is going bowling. They gave their all for Terry Smith and needed all of it to beat Rutgers. And winning is better than losing, once again.
Any other thoughts here on what went down in the Big Ten? We had USC winning the Victory Bell 29-10 over UCLA. We had a snowball game, right, between both Minnesota and Wisconsin, as well as, I believe, Northwestern Illinois, land of Lincoln game. We had Michigan State, Maryland. I believe Michigan State won that game. I didn't see the final score before we hit go here.
Maryland loses their final 8 this
Incredible.
season and bringing Mike Locksley back. Yeah.
And on Friday, Iowa absolutely destroyed Nebraska by a 40-16 score.
Yeah. And was never truly that close. Mark Gronowski had a complete game, and Nebraska. I did see that TJ Lateef, I think, tore his hamstring early on in this one, which you never like to see.
No.
But yeah, this one was a frigid affair as well. And Iowa, you pointed out, are like a dozen points from being undefeated. Like, they were very close when you look at how close it was against USC, how close it was against Oregon, how close it was against Iowa State. Who else am I missing on Iowa's schedule loss-wise?
I mean, look, it was 4 losses by a combined 15 points is what it amounts to. So they were very good. And, you know, I look, even though it didn't quite go.
Indiana by 5, to be
Indiana
clear.
by 5, that's right, 20 to 15. Even though it didn't go quite as swimmingly as I expected with Mark Gronowski, Iowa did pull together down the stretch. And I thought looked much better on offense second half of the season, either because they were playing worse teams or because they were just getting better. Probably a combination of both, but good for them.
So they were a Trinidad Chambliss away from going 11-1.
Crazy.
Yeah.
Absolutely crazy.
Elsewhere, yeah. I mean, I'll never skim over Minnesota winning the Axe, right? I know you're doing a Zoom call, a support call, but it ends in a positive way for Sky Yuma. So that was a weather game. You mentioned Northwestern, a weather game with Illinois and the Land of Lincoln Trophy.
That's right.
Disappointing season given some of the expectations early on, but Illinois going 8-4 is never going to be that huge a piece of misery if you're an Illinois fan and some of the depths to which Illinois has fallen throughout the years. So good for Illinois for winning that game. And the USC UCLA game was somewhat close. I think I only watched a little bit of that, so maybe I'm wrong on that. We'll rewatch that one later on. And I think that concludes my Big Ten thoughts.
Let's close things out here. I mean, I have much else to discuss here. I want to talk about the G5. We obviously have dude alerts to do as well before we let the fine people go. But just to check back in on the Big 12 front, we paid a lot of mind to Texas Tech and BYU.
Yes.
And how by virtue of that ASU loss, they're going to be playing in the conference championship game. But we had Utah beating Kansas in a game that had some intrigue to it.
Oh, man. Kansas had so many shots at that.
They did, didn't they?
Yep.
Man. I was really surprised at how this game went. I really thought that Utah would, I don't know. I mean, they scored 31 points, so it's hard to look down your nose too much at them. But I don't know. I just, I kind of expected a better performance, at least defensively. Does that make sense? Is that fair to say?
Well, it makes sense when Kansas and Kansas State combined to run for 700 yards against this Utah defense in consecutive weeks. I don't know what happened to this Utah defense. Maybe there are a bunch of injuries I am not referencing correctly here. That seems out of character.
I mean, let me rephrase.
Yeah.
The Utah defense did show up in this game. They picked off Jalen Daniels 3 times.
But it was a lot of bend but don't break. They did
one for a 97-yard touchdown.
Yeah.
Kansas tried to run the ball over and over again against Utah. They tried to take a page out of Kansas State's playbook. They ran the ball 51 times, 290 yards, something like that.
Yeah, they had 200-yard rushers. They did well.
Right. So it was sort of a lumpy performance. There was some good, there was some bad on the Utah defensive front. They seemed to wear Kansas down, and they were clearly the better team. They kind of cemented that over the course of the game. But in terms of their playoff viability, I don't know. I kind of feel like it took a hit here. That's just me. Maybe that's unfair to Utah, and Utah people can yell at me if they want. But I just feel like with the other teams that are grouped in that cluster of 2-loss schools, this one didn't move the needle much for me.
So they've only lost to the 2 teams playing in the Big 12 championship game in Texas Tech and BYU. Until these last 2 weeks, they've exclusively blown out everybody. So they didn't finish strong. I think I'm with you that when you look at Utah, it's very obvious they're a very good team. But when you stack resumes, I mean, they beat ASU. I think, was that a Sam Levitt game or was that a Jeff Sims game? That was a Jeff Sims game.
Right.
And ASU is a fringe top 25 team. Cincinnati's not going to be obviously losing what they did down the stretch. So the resume is just not going to be there. They don't have a huge non-conference win. I just think we should look at Utah as a very good team that is going to get leapt over.
Leapt over. The only other game that I want to bring up here that did something for me, and I do want to go back and watch some of the others here to get more of a fully formed opinion on what transpired in the final week of the year.
Yeah.
But Houston 31, Baylor 24 was a really fun back and forth game.
Yes.
Houston pulls it off because they were just better at executing when it really mattered. They had 417 total yards, but obviously this is a Baylor school that knows how to score, knows how to put up yards on their own. 421 for them. Houston ran the ball really well. They had 216 yards. Connor Wegman was a dude, had 3 touchdowns, 2 on the ground. Baylor put a lot on Sawyer Robertson, and he only completed about 50% of his passes. So he's a good quarterback, but they put a lot of strain on him to go out there and win this one. He wasn't able to get it done. A great season, by the way, for Houston, finishing this one out strong, winning over Baylor by 7.
Agree.
Dan Rubenstein, I want to give you a very brief G6 update, if I can do so right now.
Okay. Are you also going to include the fact that Yale scored 21 points in the fourth quarter to beat Youngstown State by 1 in the FCS playoffs?
On a very long run. Did you see that? They kept showing the highlights. They kept showing the highlights throughout the course of the day on ESPN.
Oh, nice. Okay, continue.
The group of 6. Your American championship is going to be between North Texas and Tulane. North Texas, Tulane, and Navy all won, but it's going to be North Texas versus Tulane.
Yes.
I'm excited about that matchup. Eric Morris is going to Oklahoma State. We found out about that earlier in the week, but it sounds like both he and Drew Mestmaker are at least going to hang around for this, so that's good. James Madison's going to play Troy in the Sun Belt championship game. They won 59-10 over Coastal Carolina. They're clearly trying to get some style points right now. Bob Chesney might be headed elsewhere. The rumor is that he could be going to UCLA.
Right.
Hopefully, if he decides to leave before any sort of postseason, James Madison won't be punished because they're a fun team, but who knows? Where it really gets interesting, though, and I say this especially now because of this Duke circumstance that I talked about at the top of the show. The Mountain West Conference, Dan Rubenstein.
Okay.
The Mountain West Conference is going to be down to their 3rd tiebreaker. The 3rd tiebreaker is made up of composite rankings across the following analytics platforms: Sports Source Analytics, ESPN's Strength of Record, KPI rankings, and the Bill Connolly SP+.
Continue.
We've got 4 teams, and we'll find out tomorrow who is playing in this game. It is Boise State, it is San Diego State, it is New Mexico, and it is UNLV. Among those 4 teams, we're going to find out who is playing tomorrow in the Mountain West Championship. That's really the only remaining matchup that we do not officially know at time of recording.
Yes. New Mexico with a wild win, by the way, over San Diego State, wearing
Your
their
beautiful, beautiful Lobos.
My beautiful Lobos wearing their dapper turquoise look.
They were sharp. I did like them.
Yeah, I have no idea how they're going to sort all that out. So those are the 2 big things tomorrow morning, right? We get the Mountain West calculations and Lane Kiffin.
And Lane Kiffin. Do we have a Lane Kiffin update before we put a bow in this one?
Lane Kiffin has put in his retainers and is going to sleep.
It's about time. It's been a long day for Lane.
Yeah, that's a really funny image. Lane Kiffin like, all right, guys, I got to go. I got my retainers are in. I'm done taking calls.
Any other action that you want to highlight here before we get the dude alerts and let these people go to bed?
Across like the American or Sun Belt or anything
Across
like
whatever you want, sir.
I don't think teams like Arkansas State and Louisiana won their 6th. Texas State won their 6th to get to a bowl. Your guy Jared Parker got to 8-4 with Troy. Pretty quietly.
He's
we mentioned
my guy.
James Madison won by 49 points at Coastal. So the style points seem to be with JMU. Navy beat Memphis Thursday night. Not nothing as Navy goes to 9-2.
28-17 and win on Thanksgiving Eve.
Yes. And so they would be eligible. Yes. They would be eligible to the American Championship, and yet they will still play Army in 2 weeks.
That's
so
correct.
We have that. North Texas, as you mentioned, Drew Mestmaker went wild as he normally does. And they beat up on Temple. Tulane shut out Charlotte. UAB without Trent Dilfer beat Tulsa. So got to 4-8. That's something. Army beat UTSA in the Alamo Dome, which we've discussed as being difficult. And Army gets their 6th win, so they'll go bowling. USF not going to play for the American, but they beat Rice by 49 as well. So
hammered
you are
them,
high on USF, and
I was.
USF largely came through. They're not going to make the college football playoff. It's something. It's something to potentially win 10 games, and looks like they're probably losing their coach in the process. Fresno looks like they're going to get to 8 wins. Hawaii looks like they're going to get to 8 wins. UNLV and Dan Mullen's first year, 10-2.
That's a nice year.
We're also going to be talking about Dan Mullen coaching candidate in a year from tonight. Somewhere else. I think that's it. And Boise State was able to manage to come back against Utah State on the road.
If you've got anything else to say, of course, you can always hit us up, solidverbal@gmail.com, or you can reach out on any social platforms. If you're watching here on YouTube, please hit subscribe. If you are listening to the audio feed, or if you just happen upon us, please hit follow on your podcasting app of choice so that you don't miss any of our episodes. We're really just getting started. Like, the first part of the season is over, and now's when it really gets interesting. As we get into the postseason, of course, we're going to have games. We're going to have all sorts of fun. We would encourage people out there who want to join the community to head on out to verballers.com, sign up as a certified or premium verballer. It not only supports what Dan and I do, helps us keep the lights on, but you get access to perks like ad-free episodes, bonus content, or Discord server, playing our games. We're working on games coming up here for the bowl season and playoff season and the like. So get in on the action now. It's not too late to join up, support what we do, and also play some games with the community.
Yes.
Dan Rubenstein, would you like to give out some dude alerts?
Sure.
We give out dude alerts to the mostly individual performances that move the needle for us every college football week. Dan, Rivalry Week, who did it for you?
Well, we got some suggestions. Obviously, Will, a longtime verballer, says the Virginia defense holding Virginia Tech to under 200 yards, which many middle schools might be able to do, but Virginia also was able to do it. We got a couple of nominations for officiating crews, including the Ohio State-Michigan replay official, the Iron Bowl officiating crew. Ahmad Hardy, obviously the dude of dudes, had a sensational year for Mizzou. Freaky Leak, Malik Benson came through once again. He had the huge catch for Oregon against Iowa, if you remember. He had a big punt return touchdown against USC, and he had a big touchdown to open up the game against Washington today. So most certainly a dude. Malik Washington, in a losing effort against Michigan State, threw for over 450 yards and 3 touchdowns. Unfortunately, wasn't able to get it done. Trinidad Chambliss for Ole Miss once again. How about Ethan Kaliak-Manis? Just tip of the cap against Penn State. Had some down years there for Minnesota. Has revitalized things for Rutgers. In that same game, Katron Allen goes for over 200 yards. Kamario Taylor, in a losing effort for Mississippi State, thrust into a starting role and goes for 200 on the ground against Ole Miss, who does not have a great rush defense, but all the same, an impressive performance. Malcolm Simmons, we mentioned, for Auburn, in a losing effort, goes for 143 yards. Isaiah Horton had those 3 touchdown catches. Dudes across the sport. How about Jaden Baugh? Jaden Baugh just kept running for a disastrously chaotic and bad Florida season. Jaden Baugh, every week, gave everything he had. He goes for 266 in a winning effort, in a rivalry game, in a lame duck situation. Good for Jaden Baugh.
Good for Jaden Baugh. If you got any other suggestions, again, hit us up on social media or solidverbal@gmail.com. So here's the way this is going to work, verballers.
Yes.
We're going to have our normal complement of episodes this week. We're going to do one for Tuesday. We'll have another one for Thursday. You can stop back in next Saturday night, same time, same place. We will do our conference championship recap. Typically, those are some of the biggest shows that we do. We're still working on the exact timing and schedule for what we're going to do this time next weekend, because not only do we have games that we need to discuss in the immediate aftermath, but 1 o'clock, 12 p.m. Eastern, whatever it is, on Sunday, that's when we're going to get the final playoff rankings we're going to need to react to. So stay tuned. We'll give you more information as we can on when we're going to be talking about all of that stuff. But for the time being, tune back in on Tuesday. We're going to go through, I think, a little bit of more detail here over teams that exceeded expectations, teams that made bowls, go through records, over-unders, things of that nature. Just a little bit of a retrospective now that the regular season is over. And, of course, we'll give you the latest Lane Kiffin and coaching news.
Yes, absolutely. Can't wait. More Lane.
More Lane, indeed. Dan Rubenstein, enjoy the rest of your evening.
You as well. Can't wait to talk all things Conference Championship Week. Watch more of these games to discuss early on in the week. Have playoff takes that people are going to be infuriated by that are going to be so mild. You can't even believe it. And head into this very active time of the... We have signing day, right?
Signing day? Yeah.
Early signing day, excuse me.
Going
Yeah.
on.
Got coach hires. Yeah, this is when it gets real spicy.
For that guy over there, my good friend Dan Rubenstein, for myself, Ty Hildenbrand, thank you all for downloading, for listening, for supporting, for watching live. We will talk to you all soon. In the meantime, you know the drill. Stay solid.
Peace.